This year, we learned about botany.
Botany is the study of plants.
A botanist is someone who studies plants.
We learned that plants are put into groups to make them easier to study. This process is called classification. Classifying plants is a lot like organizing Legos. These are all Legos. Here I have taken my group of Legos and separated them into smaller groups by color: red, white, black, gray, blue, brown, yellow, and orange. Here I have taken the red group and separated it into smaller groups by size: big, medium, small, even smaller, smallest. These are all plants. Here I have taken the group of plants and separated them into small groups by those which have flowers and which do not have flowers. Here I have taken the flower group and separated them into smaller groups by the type of flower: monocotyledons and dicotyledons. I'll explain the difference later. Hey Liam, see these tubes? That's what botanists look for when they're classifying plants. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
See these tubes inside the plant, Liam? Tubes that carry liquid is what vascular means.
So they're vascular plants?
That's right, Liam. These are vascular plants.
Ferns are vascular plants. They are different from other vascular plants. They need very moist and shady conditions to grow. And they are seedless. Instead of seeds, they have stori, which are groups of sporangia. The leaf of a fern is called a frond, which is a kind of doubly compound leaf. We'll talk about compound leaves later. Look at the bottom of this frond. See the little bumps? Those are stori, which is what we call groups of sporangia. The sporangia holds the spores that will grow into new ferns.
Non-vascular plants aren't just missing tubes, they also don't have stems, roots, or leaves. Mosses are a type of non-vascular plant. If you look at them very closely, it looks like they might have tiny leaves, but they don't because they don't have tubes in them, so they aren't true leaves. Most people know that plants need water to survive and grow, but because non-vascular plants don't have roots, they can't get water and nutrients from the ground. Instead, non-vascular plants get their water and nutrients like this. See how the water is spreading through the napkin? That's how a non-vascular plant gets its water spread throughout it. These are lichens. They may look like plants, but they are not. Lichens are actually two living things rolled into one. Lichens are fungus plus algae. These two living things sometimes team up to become lichen because the fungus draws up water and chemicals that the algae needs, and the algae makes food for both of them. So why should you care about lichens? Because lichens like to grow in places with clean air. So the greener the lichens, the cleaner the air.
Aren't these flowers beautiful? They're not just beautiful, they have a purpose. Every flower makes seeds, even the tiniest flower, like this one. How they make seeds is a miracle of God's design. He designed each flower in a special way. Let's look at this one. These green parts are called sepals. They help protect the baby plant while it's growing. Together, the sepals are called the calyx. These are called petals. They help attract pollinators and give them somewhere to land. All of the petals together are called the corolla. I've pulled open a petal. The slimy stuff at the bottom is called nectar. Pollinators love nectar. In the middle of the flower is both the female and male parts of the flower. Almost all flowers have the female and male parts of the flower. These little parts are the male parts. They are called the stamen. The stamen's job is to make pollen. The pole part of the stamen is called the filament, and the fat part at the top, covered in pollen, is called the anther. And this different-looking stalk is the female part. It's called the carpel. At the top of the carpel is a sticky head called the stigma. It's sticky so that any pollen that touches it will get caught. The stigma sits on a long tube called the style. At the bottom of the style is the ovary, which has ovules in it. Ovules hold teeny tiny eggs. When the pollen falls down the style to the ovary, it meets with the ovules. Then it joins with one of the eggs inside, and then it has everything it needs to make a seed.
There are many different kinds of flowers, so identifying them means knowing what to look for. One of the things you should look for when identifying a plant is whether or not it is part of a monocotyledon plant or a dicotyledon plant. A monocotyledon is a vascular plant whose veins run up and down and do not branch at all, like in this plant. A dicotyledon is a vascular plant whose veins branch out from a center vein, like in this plant. You can tell which type of plant a flower belongs to by counting its petals. This flower has 6 petals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Monocot flowers usually have petals in multiples of 3. So if a flower has 3, 6, or 9 petals like this one, it is a monocot. Dicots usually have petals in multiples of 4 or 5. So this flower, which has 5 petals, is a dicot.
On the bottom of this leaf are lots of teeny tiny little mouths. They are called stomata. You can only see them with a microscope. They are teeny little tiny holes in the leaf that are surrounded by guard cells. When the sun rises, the guard cells swell and the stomata open. This lets in carbon dioxide. The leaf turns the carbon dioxide into food for the plant. It does this through a process called photosynthesis. While the carbon dioxide is coming in, water travels up from the roots of the plant into the leaves. There, the plant uses the energy it gets from the sunlight to mix the water with the carbon dioxide. This makes sugar and oxygen. The plant eats the sugar and releases the oxygen through the stomata for us to breathe. At night, when there is no sunlight to give the plant energy, the plant's stomatas close and the plants rest.
But how does the plant energy from sunlight?
Leaves are full of something called chlorophyll. They absorb the light that leaves need.
Did you know that plants also absorb harmful chemicals so that we don't breathe them?
That's
Hey Liam, can you tell me the different parts of this leaf?
Yes. This is the apex. This is pretty or attached to the plant. This is the midrib. This is the blade. This is the margin.
That's right, Liam. Good job. Did you notice that this leaf has branching veins? That means it's part of a dicotyledon plant. More specifically, it has pinnate venation, which means that its veins branch out from a single middle vein. This leaf has more than one center vein, so we say it has palmate venation. This leaf is part of a monocotyledon plant and has parallel venation because its veins never intersect. You know, there are other things I noticed about this leaf too. It is a simple leaf because it is one leaf attached to the stem by a single petiole. This leaf, though, is a compound leaf because it has several leaflets attached to a single petiole. Have you ever heard the saying, leaves of three, let it be? It's talking about poison oak, which is compound leaf. The arrangement of leaves on a stem often helps to identify the plant. There are three basic arrangements: alternate like this one, opposite like this one, and whorled like this one. If you want to identify a leaf, you need to pay attention to its shape. There are many different kinds of shapes. This is an obovate leaf. This is a palmate leaf because it looks like it's a palm because of the fingers. And this is a heart-shaped coordinate leaf. The margin of a leaf can also help you to identify it. It might have an entire margin, a serrate margin, a dentate margin, a crenate margin, or a double serrate margin. To properly identify any leaf, you need to determine its venation, its shape, and its margin. Did you know that not all plants make seeds?
Yep. Some plants make sporangia.
What are sporangia?
Sporangia are spore containers. Spores make plants just like seeds.
So spores are seeds?
Nope, spores are not seeds. Hey Liam, this is what the seed looked like when I bought it from the store. This is what the seed looked like when I soaked it in hot water for half an hour. And this, I have started to pull it open and let's take a closer look. See this spot right here? It is called the hilum. It is where the baby seed attached to its mother. And the outside of the seed is called the testa. It is like a coat. When the testa gets wet and warm, it comes off, and the baby plant gets water. The baby plant is called an embryo. These parts are called the cotyledon. They help provide the food that the embryo needs to grow. This worm-looking thing is called the radicle. It's the baby plant's root. This is the hypocotyl. It will become the stem of the plant. This is the epicotyl, which is the top of the embryo. And it holds the plumule, which will become the first true leaves of the plant.
Did you know that there are two different types of plants that make seeds? They are called angiosperms and gymnosperms. Angiosperm means seed container, so angiosperm plants are plants that produce seeds with some kind of container. Gymnosperm means uncovered seed, so gymnosperm plants produce seed which are not covered. Conifers are an example of gymnosperm. A jacaranda tree is an example of an angiosperm. All angiosperms make flowers before they make their seeds.
flowers need to be pollinated.
That's right, Liam. Do you remember some of the ways that flowers are pollinated?
Yes, animals.
That's right. Did you know that flowers have special patterns on their petals that tell the animals where to go?
Yes. We can see colors we can't.
That's right, Liam. Bees can see colors we can't see because of ultraviolet light, which means they can see more colors than we can. Do you remember some of the other animals that pollinate flowers, Liam?
Yes. Hummingbird, bats, and moths.
That's right. Do all those animals like the same kinds of flowers?
No.
That's right. God designed different kinds of flowers to attract different kinds of animals to pollinate them.
Hummingbirds are attracted to big red flowers with sweet smells.
Bees need flowers with large landing pads and centers big enough for them to stick their heads inside.
Butterflies need landing pads too, but their proboscis can get into narrow centered flowers where bees wouldn't fit. So they like small flowers with long necks below the opening.
Moths don't land when they drink, and because they are nocturnal, they like flowers that only smell sweet at night and have lighter colors that are easier to see in the dark.
While bats like flowers that smell musty or sour at night, flowers for bats also need to be strong enough to hold the bat's weight and not have too many leaves to get in the way of the bat's wings. Bats like cactus flowers.
Yep.
Hey, look, Liam. Do you remember some of the other ways that flowers can be pollinated other than animals?
Yes. When?
That's right, Liam. Flowers don't even have to be pretty if they're pollinated by the wind. They just get blown off one flower and pushed into the other flower. Grass pollen is a good example of this kind of angiosperm.
Do you know what happens after flowers get pollinated and make seeds?
What?
They get dispersed.
How?
Well, sometimes humans disperse seeds through farming.
Other times water can disperse the seeds. Like when a palm tree's coconut falls into the ocean and floats a long way away to grow on the ground it lands on. Nuts float along rivers too. Sometimes the wind disperses the seeds. The same way it spread the pollen that produced those seeds.
And sometimes God designed a plant with something called a mechanical dispersal. A mechanical dispersal lets the plant fling its seeds away when they are ripe.
Hey, Liam, do you see these things stuck in your shoe? This is an example of how God uses animals to disperse seeds. God created those stickers and burrs to cling to an animal's fur or feathers to be carried to another place to grow.
Hey, I read about that. That's where this scientist has got the idea for the little hooks that make Velcro work, like this.
There are other ways animals help to disperse seeds, you know.
Like what?
Some animals bury seeds in the spring so that they can eat them in the winter. A lot of the time, animals bury more seeds than they need, so they end up growing where they were buried.
Also, God creates seeds and yummy fruits for animals to eat.
But the animals' bodies don't digest those seeds, so it ends up coming out when it poops.
Ew! You throw in the water pipes on the bottom of the plant.
Yep. They also help the plant from blowing away in the wind and washing away in the rain.
Erosion is when the wind and rain wash away the dirt.
Roots have hair which filter most of the water and have nutrients for the plants.
Cool.
But when you transplant a plant, make sure that you don't remove too many of the root hairs, otherwise the plant will die.
Did you know the root has a cap on it that helps it dig through the dirt? It also grows as long as the plant is alive.
Did you know that not all roots grow underground?
Yes, I did. Where there's a lot of rain or moisture in the air, like in rainforests, plants can grow right on trees or root into moss.
That is really cool.
When we plant a seed, we don't need to worry about if it's right side up or not, because God designed it to have a sense of which way is down. This is called geotropism. Because of geotropism, roots always turn towards the earth. There are two different types of root systems, a taproot system and a fibrous root system.
A taproot system has one main thick root from the stem.
And it has secondary roots branching off from a main root. Taproot systems are usually deeper than they are wide.
Here's the taproot we eat. Hey, let's go find other root systems in our yard.
Just the weeds! Just the weeds! You can tell which...
Clonated.
That's right, Liam. Do you remember some of the ways that... Do you remember some of the other animals that pollinate flowers?
Yes, bats.
Quickly, please.
The wind's dispersing them.
You mean God's design is a little too efficient for us today?
A lot of the time. On the bottom of the leaves are a lot of teeny little mouths. That's a beetle.
If you want to identify a leaf, you need to... To properly identify...
Face the camera and smile like you're ready to go any second now. This is how we wait all day, wait all day, wait all day. This is how we wait all day for the cars to shut up.
That.
Okay, ready? It's getting quiet.